Sexual energy drives the world forward, yet most people waste it chasing fleeting pleasures. The average person spends 15 years of their life pursuing sexual gratification. That same energy built cathedrals, composed symphonies, and launched rockets to the moon. What separates those who transform this primal force into greatness from those who remain trapped by it? Nietzsche discovered this secret over a century ago, and the powerful have worked to keep it hidden ever since. Your potential remains locked away until you understand how to transmute this energy into pure power. Every day, millions surrender their greatest power without even knowing it. The energy that could fuel your rise to greatness leaks away through mindless pursuits of pleasure. Friedrich Nietzsche, often misunderstood by the masses, saw this tragedy unfolding in his time. What he observed then has only grown worse today. Modern society celebrates sexual freedom as liberation. Dating apps promise connection. Pornography offers release. Hookup culture promises fulfillment. Yet depression rates soar. Men feel increasingly lost. Motivation diminishes. What appears as freedom on the surface masks a deeper form of imprisonment. Nietzsche understood that unchecked sexual desire is not freedom, but the most ancient form of slavery. The chains are invisible, but stronger than steel. At the core of Nietzsche's philosophy stands the concept of will to power. Most people completely misunderstand this idea. It does not mean dominating others or flexing authority over the weak. True power, in the Nietzschean sense, means mastery over yourself. The will to power demands self-discipline, self-creation, and the courage to suffer for growth. Most modern people have abandoned this higher will and exchanged it for something far lesser, the will to pleasure, the path of least resistance. Where the will to power asks you to climb the mountain of your potential, the will to pleasure invites you to slide downhill into comfort and mediocrity. Sexual desire, when unmastered, transforms from creative force into chains. Each act of surrender to base instinct weakens your spiritual muscles. Each victory over impulse strengthens your character. The man who cannot say no to his desires will never truly say yes to his destiny. Sexual indulgence often functions as an escape hatch from the demands of greatness. Rather than face the anxiety of ambition, the isolation of original thought, the pain of discipline, or the terror of potential failure, many retreat into the warm bath of temporary pleasure. Nietzsche would look at modern dating culture with disgust, not due to any puritanical moral code, but because he would see millions of people using others as drugs, numbing themselves against the necessary suffering that builds character. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how, Nietzsche famously wrote. The tragedy of modern sexuality lies precisely here. Many people no longer have a why. They only have a who, the next person to pursue, to impress, to consume. These desire for another body becomes a hiding place from destiny. It is not freedom. It is flight from freedom. Nietzsche's most piercing insight comes when examining what happens when a person places sexual desire above their purpose. In our culture, romantic pursuit has become the central quest. Movies, music, and advertising all reinforce one message: finding the right person represents life's ultimate victory. But Nietzsche would warn that any person who places romantic partnership at the center of their existence has already surrendered their sovereignty. Instead of seeing relationship as complementary to your mission, you make relationship the mission itself. This creates a dangerous power imbalance. Your happiness now depends on external validation. Your sense of worth hangs on another's approval. Your ambition bends to accommodate their acceptance. The same person who speaks boldly about independence becomes a servant in romantic settings. Romantic idealism often conceals deep insecurity, the inability to stand complete within yourself. A person who makes another human their salvation is not practicing love, but dependency. Here emerges the cruel paradox of modern sexuality. Many believe they are free because they can pursue desires openly. They view their sexual pursuits as expressions of freedom, choice, and personal power. Nietzsche would respond sharply, "You are not free. You are trapped by biological impulses, manipulated by commercial interests that profit from your desires, and shackled by your desperate need for validation. You call it freedom. It is servitude. Think honestly, who truly controls the situation, the addict or the substance? For Nietzsche, authentic freedom never meant surrendering to every impulse. True freedom emerges through mastery, through the power to resist, to wait, to transform basic urges into higher pursuits. Look into your own life and ask, do I control my desires, or do my desires control me? Most would discover uncomfortable truths about who really holds the power. Nietzsche presents humanity with a stark choice: remain a slave to impulse or rise towards sovereignty through self-mastery. The chains binding you are not external. They are forged in the workshop of your unexamined needs, your undisciplined habits, your refusal to evolve beyond instinct. Sexual energy itself is not the enemy. Relationship is not the problem. But when either becomes your master rather than your tool, slavery begins. The person who cannot govern their desires will never create anything transcendent. Their energy constantly leaks out through the cracks of momentary pleasures. Those who overcome this pattern, who redirect their primal energy upward, access a different level of existence. They become not just functioning adults, but rare souls, not merely attractive but magnetic, not simply alive but truly free. To break free from lust's prison requires understanding that liberation never comes through indulgence, but through transformation. In Nietzsche's vision of the Übermensch, the overman, we glimpse someone who has risen above basic animal drives. This person does not reject sexuality from fear or religious shame. They have simply graduated to higher forms of energy expression. Sexual energy represents one of life's most powerful forces, yet most people squander it through mindless gratification. The person who learns discipline understands that sexual energy serves as sacred fuel. It is not the destination, but the rocket fuel that can propel you toward greatness. Nietzsche held unusual respect for solitude. While average people constantly seek companionship, validation, and distraction, the philosopher, artist, and leader retreat into productive solitude to hear their own thoughts clearly. History validates this approach. Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, Isaac Newton, these world-changing figures directed their sexual energy into creation rather than consumption. Many practiced forms of voluntary abstinence, not from religious conviction, but because their mission demanded complete focus. In solitude and self-discipline, they discovered clarity that changed human history. Most modern people fear being alone with their thoughts. Nietzsche would say that only in that silent space can you discover your highest potential. Before we continue exploring Nietzsche's radical perspective on sexual energy, take a moment to subscribe to this channel. We break down powerful philosophical ideas that mainstream sources avoid. Hit subscribe now to receive future videos on mastering your life through ancient wisdom. Most people avoid solitude because they fear what they might discover: their own emptiness, their lack of purpose, their unexamined desires. Nietzsche would argue that only by facing this void can you fill it with something authentic. Sexual discipline builds not repression, but power. In our age of instant gratification and overexposed stimulation, the person who masters their impulses develops rare magnetic qualities. They stand apart without seeking attention. They emanate something others sense but cannot name. When someone no longer needs external validation or sexual conquest to feel complete, they become unpredictable. They are no longer manipulated by basic desires. They transform from pawn to player, from follower to leader. Nietzsche despised herd mentality, the tendency to follow without questioning. Modern sexuality often operates exactly this way. People pursue what media tells them to want, chase partners based on social approval, and follow scripts without reflection. The sovereign individual steps outside this game entirely. They do not reject desire but redirect it. Their detachment is not coldness, but command. Perhaps Nietzsche's most transformative insight challenges how we view relationships themselves. Most see romantic partners as prizes to be won, status symbols to be displayed, or emotional needs to be filled. Nietzsche would suggest seeing them instead as mirrors, reflections revealing your current level of development. The person who views relationships as tests rather than destinations maintains sovereignty. Every attraction, every emotional reaction becomes data about yourself rather than external validation. Nietzschean relationships do not operate through pursuit, but through magnetism. The focused individual does not chase, but builds, creating a life so compelling that others naturally orbit around their gravity. This approach feels counterintuitive in a culture obsessed with pursuit strategies, but it contains deeper wisdom. Genuine attraction flows toward those who maintain their center rather than those who abandon it. When someone senses that you move according to internal guidance rather than external validation, they develop not just attraction, but respect, not just interest, but fascination. Ultimately, Nietzsche confronts each person with one essential question: who rules you? If sexual desire governs your actions, dictates your mood, determines your worth, then you live as a slave wearing freedom's costume. But if you rule yourself, if your actions flow from discipline, direction, and conscious choice, then you have begun the journey towards sovereignty. To desire nothing excessively is not emptiness but fullness. Fullness of purpose, clarity of vision, abundance of directed power. Most people live and die in the noisy chaos of unchecked impulses, forever chasing what cannot fulfill them. The person who masters themselves, who redirects primal energy upward, leaves behind something different, not just memories of pleasure, but legacies of creation. They focus not on being wanted, but on becoming unforgettable. Now we must move beyond philosophy into practical application. Knowledge without implementation remains mental decoration. Nietzsche did not write to entertain readers, but to transform them, to disturb their comfortable assumptions and ignite internal revolution. His message for those trapped by sexual compulsion remains blunt: save yourself or remain enslaved. The culture surrounding you profits from your continued bondage. It offers endless stimulation, disguised as fulfillment, constant validation labeled as connection. True sovereignty cannot be given. It must be claimed through disciplined living. The path begins not with external rebellion, but with internal mastery. First, establish discipline over indulgence. This means training yourself to delay gratification, not through repression, but through redirection. Begin your day without checking social media, browsing dating apps, or consuming content designed to stimulate base desires. End your days without draining your creative energy through mindless stimulation. Track your energy levels when you practice restraint versus when you indulge. Notice the mental clarity, focus, and drive that emerges when you contain rather than disperse your power. Replace pornography with productive creation. Substitute chase energy with challenge energy. Most people leak power through countless small surrenders to impulse. Build containers for your energy instead: physical training, creative projects, business building, skill development, and consistent daily practices. Second, redefine your relationship with romantic partners. Stop making them the source of your validation. Stop measuring your worth through their approval. Let your mission become your primary relationship. Focus on becoming someone impressive to your future self rather than attractive to temporary others. Nietzsche would not suggest avoiding relationships, but approaching them from strength rather than need. The romantic interest becomes not your target, but your witness, someone who observes your journey rather than defines it. The world will not offer you this wisdom voluntarily. Mainstream culture profits from your continued distraction and desire. You must declare independence from the programming that keeps you small. Refuse to remain enslaved to fleeting pleasures that promise everything and deliver nothing. Be the rare individual who walks a different path. Be the one who transforms rather than consumes. Be the one who creates rather than craves. Be the one who transcends. The person who masters desire masters themselves. The person who masters themselves masters their destiny. This is the Nietzschean path toward authentic power. This is how sexual energy becomes true power. This is your invitation to freedom. Do not just watch this video. Live it.